So this week, we found out who won out of the biggest love triangle in Big Brother history. Matt, Raven, and Matt's bowl of cereal. Personally, I think Matt chose the wrong one. Hello everyone, I'm Dan the Man. Unlike most of my video updates, this one won't be covering the nomination episode, as I covered that last video. So if you missed it, be sure to check it out. But there's still plenty to discuss, so I'll get to it. First of all, the veto competition. Jason was lucky he won it so he had control over the final nominations, but he wasn't nearly as lucky as Kevin was, because if anyone but Kevin or Jason won the veto, Kevin was 100% going up on the block. Would he have then been voted out? Well, I think there was talk about it, and I think even Paul was getting a little nervous about pulling the trigger on splitting up Matt and Raven due to the fallout that would have happened. Whereas if they'd have put up Kevin, they would have avoided some of the fallout, as Matt would have gone home, so they would have only had Raven's backlash to deal with. I don't know if it was the right choice for Jason. Yeah, turning on Kevin would have ticked off a friend and ally, but Jason probably painted a bigger target on his back by keeping Kevin off the block, even if Jason is oblivious to how much of a target he currently has. Hell, if he or Alex hadn't won the HOH comp, he might have gone home this week. He also likely lost Matt's vote, as Matt made it clear how little respect he had for the way Jason went about it, and Raven will surely follow suit if she is in the jury. So even if Jason makes it to the final two, he hand-delivered 2 votes to whoever sits next to him. Although in truth, he likely won Kevin's loyalty. Yeah, the possibility of Kevin winning a HOH or veto to help Jason out are slim to none, but they're still better than not having him as an ally at all. Even if they had gotten Kevin out this week, Matt and Raven still would have gone against Josh the following week. So maybe it was the right call. Even if his days are likely numbered either way, Jason just doesn't know it yet. I won't lie, it was great to see King Paul not get his way, as this is the first major time he didn't get what he wanted. That Alex's spoiled self was also disappointed made it even more fun. Never thought I would see Jason tell both of them no, but Kevin realized that despite what players have seemed to think in recent years, you don't have to actually agree to willingly go up as a pawn. Which brings me to something that people have been underestimating. Kevin's social game. Well, I think that Jason not using the veto, even though Paul wanted him to, was a sign people were finally starting to get over following Paul's lead and were thinking for themselves. But in reality, Jason didn't think for himself like people believe. He was willing to put Kevin up if Kevin would agree, and then give Paul and Alex, and actually the rest of the house, what they wanted. But Kevin didn't play ball, so instead of letting Paul influence him, Jason let Kevin influence him. Because at the end of the day, Kevin left Jason with a choice. Tick Kevin off, or tick Matt and Raven off. And Jason decided, due to the bond he formed with Kevin, not to mention Matt and Raven hardly ever talking to him over the summer, that he would rather not tick off and stab Kevin in the back. Even if it annoyed everyone and left him open to a verbal attack from Matt and Raven. For all the control Paul and Alex had over Jason, Kevin's social game ended up, at least for this week, beating out King Paul's demand, or even his loyalty to Alex. I'm not saying Kevin is going to win, because sooner or later they likely will want to vote him out, and he will be up. And odds are about 10% at best Kevin can save himself if he goes up on the block. So then as we saw, Jason didn't use the veto, and all hell broke loose. First off, Matt and Raven didn't take it well. Now few would have been hugging it out after a move like that, but for two people who've done almost nothing but have sex with each other all week, they sure had a huge sense of being wronged. Although apparently they thought they were much better players than they actually are. It was nice to see Matt finally step up, and him calling Jason a punk-ass bitch. I won't lie, it was funny. I'm not necessarily on Matt's side, but seeing a guy who did nothing but eat cereal all summer suddenly calling someone out so thoroughly was at least entertaining. Maybe if Matt had found his voice before this, he would still be in the house. But the big drama was the fallout with Kevin that happened immediately after that. We saw Josh and Kevin go at it, but they edited a big part of it out. Specifically, Kevin picking up a glass and basically threatening to smash it over Josh's head. I gotta wonder if Josh constantly gets threats of violence against him in his real life. All the feed showed was Kevin threatening while being on the other side of the counter to hit Josh with the glass, at which point they cut off the feeds very quickly. The house guest made it sound like it went further than that when discussing it later, but the feeds went down before we could hear much and Big Brother would tell them not to talk about it. So not sure if it truly escalated more than that, or if they're over-exaggerating. Considering this house, it could go either way. Either way, it makes the reaction we saw from Josh and the others more logical than them just falling apart because Kevin told Josh to shut up over and over again. Especially since who wouldn't want to tell Josh to shut up over and over again? I've said so much about Josh and his crap, I'll try not to go too far into it this time. Basically, everything I've said before still applies. Josh arguably wasn't as much in the wrong this time, as what they showed of the fight starting was pretty much accurate. Josh was calling him out, but hadn't gotten to the over-the-top level he usually is. And yeah, Kevin said Josh brought his family into it, but as Josh and Christmas rightly pointed out, Kevin never had a problem with swearing on his kids before. Josh did butt into someone else's fight, and for once it wasn't with Paul's say-so, but in and of itself, Kevin did overreact. The thing is, when one person threatens to hurt you, they're the ones with the problem. When 3 different people threaten to hurt you 3 different times, then you're the problem. Yeah, Josh was trying not to be a loose cannon he had been in the past this time, as he claimed he was tired of them using him like that. But from Kevin's point of view, Josh was being aimed and fired off like a gun at people, so Kevin figured it was his turn. And yes, threatening to hurt him is a bit much, but just like every other time, Josh was not going to stop unless someone either hit him, Big Brother stepped in, or they made him cry so he would go somewhere else and play victim to get a different form of attention. You know why Cody always made Josh cry? It was literally the only way to get him to stop. And they didn't show after that, but the house basically then turned on Kevin, and the usual mob mentality started, as the seeds Paul had been planning for so long finally took form. Includes some comments made behind his back by Jason and Alex that they're going to have some explaining to do when they get out of the house. Which is all I'm going to say about those comments, but they both lost a lot of their fan favorite status because of them. Although Alex probably lost it long before this. A lot of fans aren't liking the treatment Kevin is getting, and while I 100% agree it is way too much and he doesn't deserve it, neither did Mark or Dominique, and arguably even Cody and Jessica, as some would say the house went too far with them. And Kevin was in on those instances. He was not the biggest offender and seemed to be somewhat reluctant, but he never once spoke against it, and he did get involved. So some would argue this is karma. The same karma that Jason and Alex are likely going to be facing when the house gangs up on them soon. Because it's coming, believe me. These people are about to find out that mob mentality is only fun when you're on the side of the mob. So once the dust settled, more or less, the vote happened, and to no one's surprise, Matt was voted out. As they mentioned briefly, Matt did break the have-not rules. I'm surprised they didn't talk more about it, as they even gave Jason a card and made everyone sit in the living room when he read out that Matt had gotten a penalty vote for breaking the have-not rules. I guess it was just cut for time. And boy did Matt break them. He decided to be a hero and make sure he went home instead of Raven, even though it was certain he would go home anyway, but I guess he didn't see that. And so he ate liberally, slept in a regular bed, and took warm showers for the rest of the week. A lot of fans were mad and said that Big Brother should have thrown him out of the house for breaking those rules. The truth, though, is that breaking those rules has only ever gotten anyone a penalty vote. And he's not the first one to break food or have-not rules in this game. The rules state that if you break the have-not rules, you go on the block, and if the veto hasn't been played, it can't be used to take you off the block, and you can't compete for it. Originally, Big Brother apparently never thought of what would happen if that person was already on the block, but in Season 8, when Jim broke the food rules, they weren't called have-not back then, they first were going to make the punishment that if she survived that week, she would go up next week automatically and could not come down. But the House then decided since she was a dead woman walking next week, they should vote someone else out that week. Understandably, it quickly became apparent that that was completely unfair to the person that was next to Jen on the block, so they changed it to the penalty vote. And since then, Audrey broke the have-not rules in Season 16, and that also led to her getting a penalty vote. There has never been a rule that you be thrown out for breaking have-not rules, and while Big Brother can change them on a whim, Matt was punished accordingly, according to how it's been handled in the past. And seriously, if they threw out everyone who blatantly ate when they were a have-not, half the cast would have been gone in previous seasons, or hell, in this season. So with that out of the way, was Matt the right choice? Well, with him or Raven, it was largely interchangeable. Raven's come closer to winning comps, so arguably she was actually the bigger threat of the two, but at the end of the day, either gun was largely the same result. They broke up the last showmance, which was what most wanted to happen. It's actually what everyone wanted to happen, except for Matt and Raven. As we saw in the live show, there was another first as the head of household competition was rained out on, so it didn't happen during the live show. But eventually, after it stopped raining, the competition did happen, and thanks to the live feeds, I know who won. So if you don't want to know, stop now. Really, stop now. Last chance. Christmas won the head of household, apparently because they all threw it to her. Remember when we thought Christmas was going to be a challenge beast, not someone who would only win a competition when they threw it to her? Boy, what a difference 2 months and a broken foot made. Fans are hoping she'll backdoor Paul and send him home, But as I said last video, nothing like that is likely to happen. In theory, Christmas probably could at least get Kevin and Josh on board if she really wanted to take out Paul, forcing a tie and sending him home with a tiebreaker. But she isn't going to, because it would be stupid, as Paul is going to take her to the final 3 if he can. And given how he has run the house, he can. And even if he can't, Alex and Jason sure aren't going to, and they're definitely not going to take her to final 2, and she's almost surely not even going to be competing in the final competition herself. The plan for everyone but Alex and Jason was if one of them won to put up and take out Alex or Jason. So I have little doubt that one of them is going home, probably Jason. And oh, are they going to feel stupid when they do. As was announced, next week is double eviction. It could be interesting, depending on how Alex or Jason take their partner going down, which probably won't be real well. So Paul might actually sweat some for once in the second half of the double eviction, but either way, I'm far from expecting him to go home, and assume either Christmas will go if whoever is left between Alex or Jason wins the second head of household, or whichever of the Alex-Jason combo is left will go home in the second half, barring a veto. Either way, I'll be here to cover all that next week, along with whatever crazy stuff happens. And given this cast, something crazy is almost surely going to happen. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Dan the Man, and I'll see you next time.